4.7 went to Evocati, and I haven't gotten to jump in and try it out yet. I've heard a little bit of feedback from it. All I have here is the patch notes, but here they're telling us what is coming in 4.7. Again, this is not everything that's going to be in the update. This is just the stuff they're testing right now for this first initial patch. Considering it is March 4th and we're hitting Evocati, I think there is a very good chance that we could see this hitting the PTU by the end of next week. And then a PTU run until probably the following week. But it does seem like this is something that they're trying to get launched sometime between March 18th and probably March 27th. They're not going to wait until the last week, and we know it's going to launch after the Alliance 8 events is done on the 17th. So we have a few more weeks until this is going to be in everybody's hands, but we're going to learn a lot in that time. Now, PvP is not allowed right now. This is so that people can focus on testing the stuff that's in the game, actually making sure it works. This does not mean there's no PvP in the areas. I saw somebody thinking that. This is just something that is said during Evocati patches, so that initial testing phase can get done. And the initial testing phase is focusing on rock cracker operations and QV breaker stations. Hold on, saxophone. Ooh, sorry. Had to stop for that. We got some known issues going on, all in Nyx. I'm guessing all of the stuff going on in this update is going to be in Nyx. But we can actually see some from this update. Like, these are details, right? This is a bug. It says breakable ice entity visible stays intact after shooting icicles. I'm guessing this is going to be a lot like the Onyx facility, where you have to break stuff to get around it into different paths. We can also see that, like, the lasing catalyst. The laser catalyst can't be detached from the monorail. We'll get to more of this actually down here. But it tells us that there's a lot of moving around here, a lot of parts, a puzzle, if you will, that you have to do with probably different power pieces and things. What my biggest thing I want to see here is, and again, some people might have already learned this from the first Evocati test, are they going to use the resource network? Are they going to use engineering gameplay to start building puzzles? Because one of the first things we saw when they did their vertical slice was a puzzle based around a power component, and I thought that was really telling because it was just a really quick, keen insight into Squadron 42. But I think it told us a lot of what they're going to try to do with Squadron 42 to complicate situations outside of just gunfights. So here they have to find a way to cut open this panel, right? See that there's no battery in the panel, figure out how do we get battery. Go do a little searching. Eventually you find a component in a broken down vehicle. You pull it out, you bring it over, you put it in, it boots up the power, it turns on the lights, gets you the next step forward. Not a crazy novel thing, right? This is a sort of puzzle that you'd see in a game like Uncharted or Tomb Raider, but with the systems that they've built for this, I would expect them to double down and use those power systems, life support systems, all that kind of stuff to make it more interesting to jump into these systems, these locations. And that, I hope, is something that they're doing here. But we'll have to jump in and see. Gameplay! What's coming with these rock cracker facilities? Well, they are a dungeon, it says. This is a dungeon. I don't know if they called the Onyx facilities a dungeon. They say it's a sandbox location event based in Nyx. I don't know why they need to call it an event, but they do. That will utilize new asteroid mining stations to task players with rebooting one of these derelict stations so they can mine a large mineral resource at the center of the asteroid. This will primarily be a PvE-focused sandbox activity with players fighting NPCs and creatures that have infested the dungeon during the course of restoring the station's mining capabilities. For feedback focus, this dungeon experience is designed with 4 to 6 players in mind. That's actually nice that they say that. Also a little bit wild that it's for 4 to 6 players. I'm guessing they're expecting the same people who reboot the station to also do the mining in that case. Like, how much can you really mine a large mineral extraction with 4 to 6 players? We'll see. These locations can have sandbox activities that include interior missions such as recover item, missing person. Huh. You gotta like track somebody down and probably find like a info on them or something. So the biggest thing I think that we've learned here is that there are 60 exclusive locations and 30 contested ones. This likely means there were 60 locations that you can't find unless you get the quantum beacon, like at Onyx. And then there will be 30 contested locations that are always visible, like Hathor. And then in addition, it looks like they're going to have locations that probably have repetitive missions that send you there, so that people are doing those repetitive missions but not running into the people who are doing the full loop. Seems like they're still strategizing to try and figure out how best to make this work without having instancing in the game. Okay, looks like TenPoundFortyTwo is going to jump on here and talk to us a little bit about what he experienced. I want to tell people to go watch your video because you have like a full summary of what you went through, but do you have like any short takes or interesting things that you saw?
Effectively, I've been in, and it's quite similar to the Onyx facility. So if you've been into the Onyx facilities, there's multiple rooms, puzzle bits, NPCs to shoot, but it feels a bit tighter, a bit kind of more enclosed than Onyx. So it doesn't, in the way that Onyx has kind of big open rooms, it has a few rooms that are quite large and quite kind of grand. The bits that I saw, at least, were not like that. They're much more kind of tight corridors. That doesn't mean those bits don't exist. It's just the time that I had before the server crashed, I only saw kind of quite smallish set piece locations, if that makes any sense.
So when you were in there and were you trying to go through the process of getting the station back going?
Well, because they gave no instructions in the Evocati notes for this first one. They basically wanted to see how it works as like a first time play. I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. So I was effectively running through it, but I was unaware of exactly what I was meant to be doing. So I pulled something out of a piece of machinery. I don't think that was a battery, but I think other people have talked about there's batteries that you're trying to get. I pulled something out, but it was unclear exactly where I was meant to put it. And so I basically worked my way through a few rooms and NPCs and found that thing. And then not long after that, it crashed. So it was a pretty rough Evo test in some way.
As they are. How often were you getting attacked?
So you land at a landing pad and then you go through an airlock, and then immediately there was a couple of NPCs there. Then as you work through, I think what did I do? Go down some stairs, was it next? Or an elevator? Maybe I went down an elevator and there's some more NPCs there. Then into another section, more NPCs there. As in, it was fairly heavy on the FPS AI PvE content.
Would you say?
Was okay.
Would you say? Because in the patch notes here, I believe they say something along the lines of, where is it? This will be a primary PvE focused sandbox activity with players fighting NPCs and creatures. I think at one point they had said that the FPS was secondary. Does it feel like the main thing, or does it feel like it's sort of background?
In the bit that I felt that I was doing, it definitely felt like the main thing you're doing to get to the puzzle stuff. I have no real idea of how big the scale is of like the puzzle part of it, where you're trying to collect these different things, I think, to get the station back online. I've got no idea how many levels there were in this facility or how many sections I didn't see. There was a map that showed different bits, but what I'd say, the bit that I played was pretty heavy on the FPS PV content. But obviously then once you've done all that, yeah, but once you've done all that, then you get to the mining stuff maybe. But I mean, I'll say it's designed for 4 to 6. I wasn't struggling to get through it on my own. The question will be, can you do it on your own, or are there certain parts of like the puzzles where you need to do 2 things at the same time, so you need more than one player? Like when they say this is designed for a 4 to 6 group, what exactly does that mean? Is it impossible for a solo? We don't know that yet.
I'm also thinking, like, does that include, are they basically just saying that the 4 to 6 people who go in and do all the clearing out and the puzzle stuff are also the same 4 to 6 people who get in the mining ship and go into mine? Because I thought they were going to they were planning on those being different groups. Which, I mean, you could do that yourself, but
yeah, the way it looks to me as though it isn't like there's a group outside doing something and there's also a group inside doing something at the same time. It seems to me as though you all go inside, you get the station back online, and then you mine. That would be my guess from what I saw today. But I don't think anybody actually has ever. I don't think anybody today has actually managed to complete it, or at least I've not heard of anybody, because the servers were in such a poor state. So they're doing another test tonight, and maybe then we'll have a clearer idea of what exactly the flow is supposed to be with it.
Yeah. How would you say it differentiates from Hathor? That it feels so much more like Onyx?
I mean, the major thing I was pointing out in my stream in the video, Hathor obviously is just, there's 4 Hathor locations, and so if you want to do that content, you're kind of filtered into those locations, and they're obviously quite big. They're open, whereas this feels much more tight, and there's obviously so many locations that if you don't want to ever see anybody, like the Onyx facilities, there's so many Onyx facilities that it's pretty rare that you'd ever see another player in them. It's a similar sort of thing from that side of things.
So kind of like how they've implemented into the game. It's similar in that it's not instanced, but they've definitely made it so that you're not going to run into as many people.
I think so, yeah. And it's funny because the point we were making earlier was that my understanding, or what I thought was going to happen based on what CIG had shown us, I thought it was Hathor V2 or Hathor in space. Lots of people were saying the idea that it would be a big org thing that orgs would be fighting over, and I just don't see that that's the case now, especially because it's only designed for 4 to 6 players.
Right.
It's not org content, and I think the reality is org people will be a bit disappointed, and definitely some people earlier when we were talking about were disappointed that it isn't a big org thing. But I think when we did a poll and when we looking at the comments on the video, I think you can see that the vast majority of players are quite happy actually that this is a PvE only really event. And we don't know exactly how it works because they've got exclusive stations and then they've got contested stations. We don't know how contested will those contested stations be. We don't have any idea how that's going to work. But primarily, as CIG have said, it's a PvE thing, and people on the whole seem to be happy about that. But yeah, if you're an org looking for the next Hathor thing to do, like big battles with other orgs fighting over trying to lock down the area, I don't think that might not even be possible, and I don't think that will be common.
It's interesting then. Do you think that it's reasonable that they call it a sandbox activity?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because obviously it's in the Moby-Glass as well, so it's not just something that you're going to happen across. You have to take a mission, so it definitely, to me, I'd say it's more sandboxy. I think it's more theme parky. I think to call it sandbox seems maybe just not true. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they obviously care about what we call their things, whether we call them events or we call them activities. I don't know why exactly, but yeah, I think to call this what do they call it in the patch notes? So like a PvE sandbox activity.
Yeah, that's sandbox location event.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, part of it could be sandbox if you can just stumble upon the locations, but if it has been designed to play out like Onyx, they're calling it a dungeon. Yeah. Then I don't see why you don't just say it's a dungeon, but maybe it's 2 different versions of it. We'll have to see. It's first day, so.
Yeah, and this might be the sort of thing that they might convert in the same way with Onyx. They might convert this to instances at some point. Once that tech is working, they might come back and look at this, and rather than there being 110 locations for this, there's maybe a couple, but they're instance. We don't know what they'll do, but yeah,
I think you're right about that.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see, but people seem happy. More people than I thought, at least in the comments of my video, seem happy that it's PvE focused, which I think probably sums up maybe the player base. And we have this whole thing where we always like, oh, CIG have sold this game to everybody. Everybody's got different ideas about what it is, but maybe the response to this one shows that actually the vast majority of people are quite keen for some PvE content like this, and maybe the org people and the PvP org types are maybe more in the minority than sometimes it looks like from the kind of noise online, if that makes any sense.
So I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
If they buffed the difficulty of PvE, do you think they'd still be cool with that? Or is it a PvE thing, or is it I want a consistent, easier experience thing, or is it just like I don't want to have to lose to other players thing? Because what if this was still really difficult and you couldn't do it, even if it was PvE?
So you, as in for a PvE player, you think they would be unhappy if it was really hard?
I'm asking you if you think, like, all the people who are happy that it's PvE, what if it did and then we got it, access to it, and it ended up being like the most difficult thing in the game?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was that section of time when the Vandal tech smuggler stuff in Nyx was the NPCs were on steroids, weren't they? They were just like headshotting everybody from everywhere, and nobody really enjoyed that. I mean, yeah, if CIG, from my experience today, I was on a server that I think was running at 30 FPS, and I wasn't really struggling. It was a bit of desync, but I wasn't really struggling to do it, so it wasn't that difficult. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they've got some balancing stuff always to do to make sure it's kind of fairly balanced. But I think, unfortunately, we have not to turn this into some sort of like political commentary or anything. We do have a similar situation where we have two groups of people that are often very opposed, in that PvE people and PvP people can often be on a complete separate side of the coin, so to speak, and it's tricky for CIG to find some sort of middle ground, because ultimately with this, some people will look at this and say, oh, it's just PvE again, the game's always PvE, and other people will look at this and go, oh, it's PvP, there's no PvP.
It's always either one, dude. Exactly. There's no mix.
There's no, and people being able to hold the middle ground to say, the reality probably here is, well, CIG does have to build out more PvE locations like this.
Yeah.
But the flip is also true. They also need to cater more for PvP people. So ultimately, you have to wait and see what comes in over the course of the year. I guess the thing is, though, looking at this year, I think now, if you look at all the content still to come, it's pretty much all PvE. Is that right? And I think people looked at this as the PvP thing for this year, maybe, and it just isn't. So I guess we've got Siege is coming back in.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. We've got Siege, we've got the PvE tactical strike groups, and so I suppose maybe the year might look quite heavily PvE focused.
I'm gonna stand by it. I think that people are really missing the forest for the trees when they constantly label everything as either PvE or PvP. It just pigeonholes you too much. And honestly, even if they're dropping in these kind of like theme park sections where you're going in and doing the same thing every time, it's all PvE, you're all safe. Once you leave this place to turn in the stuff you got back to your home base, you're back in the sandbox. So
yes,
at the end of the day, you still do have to go through that level of like interaction with the wider world.
Yes, and that will be interesting to see what happens to Nyx because of that. Because the thing with this is, if the materials in the rock that you crack are quite valuable, will pirates set up camp on the routes back into Levski? Because the stations, the new stations they've added in this patch as well, I had a quick look at, they haven't got a refinery as far as I can tell, and so it looks as though the main refinery place in Nyx will be Levski. And so will there be some sort of PvP piracy type lane thing trying to catch people coming back in from we don't know. But yeah, you're right, the sandbox is around all of these locations, and so yeah, I think ultimately the main thing that I do sympathise with the PvP org crew is that they want things where they're fighting not just against random people on their own. They want org v org locations like Hathor.
They want to go to war.
Yeah, they want to go to war, and that's where they'll be disappointed with this one, I think.
All right, man. Well, great thoughts, dude. Thank you so much for sharing what you experienced. It sounds like they're going to be interesting locations, but a little bit different from anything we've experienced in Star Citizen so far. So we just got to experiment with them this month and feel out kind of how they're going to fit into the game. I'm glad they've at least made new like space station types surrounding this archetype. It looks good.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a fun build up to these. It's definitely going to be fun. Lots of people are going to love this. That's the key thing to say. A lot of people are going to absolutely love these locations.
Well, that's probably the biggest positive you can get out of it. So there's some good insight, first looks, first little chatter about this. It's interesting. It's almost like a mixture of the two things they did last year. Like they're combining everything that they've worked on. I always thought of this as another iteration on Hathor, but it also sounds like it's kind of an iteration on what they've been doing as far as like narrative content goes. And I wonder how much of a storyline might develop from this. They didn't say this was where the story was going to continue. It might be something else that they do to continue the story. There haven't been really any like leaks or mentions of that, but maybe this is something to do with it. I hope you guys got some interesting info out of that from me and TenPoundFortyTwo. Thank you to him for joining us. Go check out his video. He did a full detailed look into what his experience was with Evocati. You're going to get a lot more information from that. This was just a chance as a first little preview. Thanks for checking it out.